American manufacturing giant 3M says it will continue to send critical medical supplies to countries that need them. Last week, you'll remember, U.S. President Donald Trump invoked the Defense Production Act, effectively blocking shipments of N95 masks outside of the U.S. CBC's Arthi Pohl is on the story. So what does this mean then for us here in Canada, Arthi?
Well, essentially, it's good news that this deal has been struck because it means there will be the flow of these critical medical supplies from the United States into Canada, whereas we know, as you mentioned, that the U.S. president had invoked that Defense Production Act, which forced the Minnesota-based company 3M essentially to prioritize U.S. shipments over Canadian shipments, and was even under pressure from the U.S. government to also sort of curtail the shipments to Latin American countries as well. And so this deal that has been reached, of course, means that we will be able to get those shipments in, which is critical. Some of the new information that we're learning just this morning, in fact, is that we know we were hearing from Ontario's Premier Doug Ford that he had said there was a blockage of this product of N95 masks coming across the border. That was yesterday. Today, there are reports that 500,000 masks should be in the province today. They will then have to go through testing, et cetera, before they are distributed. But that certainly is good news. But back to 3M, let's quickly take a look at the deal that has been reached. And they did issue a statement to that end in regards to what exactly it is that they will be doing here. And in fact, they will get 166.5 million respirators over the next 3 months, primarily from its manufacturing facility in China, starting in April. Now, the administration is committed to working to address and remove export and regulatory restrictions to enable this plan. The plan will also enable 3M to continue sending U.S.-produced respirators to Canada and Latin America, where 3M is the primary source of supplies. So that is an important decision and deal that was struck, but we know that these conversations are continuing, and certainly was a big focus for federal officials and provincial officials who were provincial officials were infuriated learning of the U.S. president's decision, and that was a few days ago, Suhana.
And what questions remain, Arthi, about future supplies and our dependence on foreign-made masks?
I would say out of this, there are two very main questions that I hear from people and that are emerging right now. One, how to not rely on international suppliers, and secondly, when. When can we start to see more of these supplies come in from, whether it is 3M or from domestic suppliers? We know that the Canadian government, for example, had inked deals with some Canadian companies in order to start making more made in Canada solutions. For example, ventilators, of those masks, gowns, gloves, etc. But we don't have a firm timeline on that. Also, they say that they have procured millions of masks and other PPE, personal protective equipment, for healthcare workers. But we don't know exactly when that is arriving, and neither do healthcare workers. And now, we did get a chance, of course, to hear from Ontario's Premier, who was addressing this issue about more made in Canada options. And here's what he had to say yesterday.
We will never rely on any other country moving forward. We're going to make sure that we make our own ventilators, and the nitrile gloves too. We'll make our own, because I'm not relying on anyone else any longer. When the cards are down, you see who your friends are.
All right, so those are some strong words there from Ontario's Premier. We'll also remember that it was just yesterday he said essentially in the province they will run out of some critical supplies in 1 week's time. And I'm seeing reports too that in Alberta, the Premier there has also said that about 1 month left of supplies is what they have left. So that is of critical importance, of course, to those on the front line. Suhana.
Thanks for that, Arthi. CBC's Arthi Pohl in Toronto.